Yeah, thanks for sending this through here. You're looking awesome. The fundamentals are spot on. Your lines are looking really good. I can see you working on your break application stuff. I know that you had mentioned you're still kind of getting adjusted to the more aggressive braking. So we're gonna have some notes on that. But really now the biggest area of opportunity is really entry speed into every corner, right? We're starting to apply the throttle in the right point. We're getting comfortable there. We're starting to brake right into the corner. So I'm gonna have some fun, more of the kind of things that we've been working on, but now I also want to start to work on working up to that limit and how do we get comfortable feeling the limit. And we're going to do that by picking the right corners and approach it the right way here. Start to focus more on lateral limit. So picture fast lap here, the 47.5. For right now, 1 and 2 look really good. Not focal points for me. You know, you're committed in here. You're smooth back to the throttle, which is what I like to see. Really, really good job. So the into turn 2 here, what I want you to focus on is before you hit the brakes, it's going to sound a little bit weird, but try to engage your core a little bit. I'm not saying flex your core, but just a little bit of engagement. What I find is that often gives our body the ability to be a little bit more, have a little bit more dexterity in the feel of the pedal for the brake application. Because what's going on here is we're quite simply braking too hard into turn 2 and then holding on to the brakes, and then that's causing us to get back to throttle too early, kind of back in this range, right? And then we're driving through the corner on throttle. So I want more entry speed, but it's a type of corner where I don't want to set a lot of weight to the front end. So this is the type of corner where really light brake application is really important to keep the balance of the car a little bit more neutral. So I want you to really focus on where you're getting up to like 0.5 Gs. I think it should be more like 0.2 Gs. So I want you really thinking light on the pedal here. We might be a little early on the turning point, but I'm not just concerned about that. I want more entry speed, but I don't want you braking later. So I want you really trying to push yourself to have good dexterity on the brakes. So engage that core a little bit. So really work on that lighter brake application so that you can roll a little bit more entry speed, get back to throttle where you're getting back to throttle. I think you'll be faster just all the way through there. Now into turn 3 here, we're solid. What's going on is we are a little early on the turning point, but it's more we're too fast on the turning point, and that's causing us to apex too early. And we're also, as you can see here, kind of breaking away from our good habits on initial throttle application, like kind of coming where we're ready to unwind the steering wheel. So see how you've apexed here? I know it's hard to see your steering wheel, but I can kind of tell enough to know. One sort of reference point for yourself that is going to be true 99.9% of the time. There's always exceptions to the rules in the sport, but this corner isn't one of those. Is if you ever find yourself having to add steering input after you've apexed, there's a red flag that should go off, and you should be thinking, oh crap, I'm probably too early to the apex point. So what you can see here is you have a little bit of release, but your peak steering input actually comes like kind of in this range here, way after we've apexed, right? So we want that apex to be much closer to the start of that apex curve here, right? And that point. And we also want to be waiting for that point before we get back to initial throttle application. So turn 3 is probably a decent time opportunity or lap time opportunity for us. We'll eventually be able to brake deeper. First step, though, is let's work on turning in about a car length later. But really, it's about trying to slow your hands down. Step 1, so that you apex later. Step 2 is let's really come off the brakes. You're coming off the brakes relatively early. That's how I know we can brake a bit deeper. But work on coming off the brakes even earlier. Even if it's at the turning point, that's fine. Just get comfortable trying to come off the brakes. And then eventually we're going to want to shift our brakes a little bit deeper into the corner. But let's get our line first before we do anything else, okay? So now what I want to do is start to talk about, how do we build up to getting more comfortable with rolling entry speed? How do we get more comfortable feeling the limit of the car laterally? What I like to do on the racetrack is pick one or two corners that are sort of the lowest risk corners, corners where if I make a mistake, maybe I have a half spin, maybe I go off the racetrack a tick, but I'm not going to really hit anything. This is a great example of the right type of corner to experiment in. Like, we should feel relatively comfortable making a mistake here, right? Now it's not super slow, but it's slow enough to where we can make a mistake there. Turn 3 is also one where I'd be kind of comfortable building up to it, right? I'm comfortable for the most part saying break a little bit later because there's a little bit of runoff road here, right? But so what I want to focus on here is this actually, I might have 3, that might actually be turn 4, and this might be 5. I can't remember exact corner numbers here, but I think you're on the same page with me. So this is in here. What I want to do is work on rolling more entry speed. So what I can show you here is the lateral, looking at the friction circle, you can see how we get to like 0.7, 0.8 before apex, but we don't really get up to that 1.3 G until corner exit. There's even a little bit more grip. We should see 1.4 even at corner exit here, right? So we're under the limit of the car corner entry. So what my goal for you here is I want you, let's see, where's our brake release point come? Okay. So my goal for you here is I want you working on the brake release. I want you trying to come off the brakes earlier and earlier and earlier. And my goal for you is you kind of get to this point and you've got so much entry speed that you miss the apex point. The car goes a little bit wide. The 2 reference points I'm looking for are, I know I want to apex roughly here, and I know I want my frontal application point coming in this point. So those are the foundations in which we're building off of. So now what I want to do is pick a corner like this, and I'll say, okay, now I want to roll in more entry speed, more entry speed, more entry speed, until one of these 2 points break, until I can no longer pick up throttle here because I've just brought in so much speed and I can't get back to throttle, or until I miss that apex point. I turn in and the car sort of understeers wide, I miss my apex point. Because we have the foundations of knowing where the apex is and where my throttle is, you can now start to little by little roll a little bit more speed, a little bit more speed, a little bit more speed. You know where the limit is, and now you have these like feedback loops built in to where if you go over the limit by a little bit, you now know. And that's how we start to go over the limit by a little bit, but that doesn't mean we're crashing, right? Because you know like what we're focused on, you now can realize much earlier, oh, that was a little bit over the limit, where other drivers are going to roll more and more and more and more until they're spitting off the racetrack because they don't have this to build off of, right? So that's why we're picking this corner. So the other part of this is, why are we focused more on the brake release, not on braking deeper? Well, because now I know that it's going to be an understeer, right? If I'm coming off the brakes, I don't have a lot of weight on the front end, the car should be understeering. There might be some caveats. You might kind of lose the rear a little bit, but it should typically more understeer here. But number 2 is, if you try to brake deeper and deeper and deeper and you get in too late, once you broke too late, there's nothing else you could do. All you could do is hold the brakes and hope. By working on the brake release point, if you come in and you're really too hot, you can always unwind the steering wheel and add a little brake pressure. No harm, no foul. So I want you to working on kind of coming off the brakes earlier and earlier and earlier, and we're trying to make this thing understeer. Your goal is to miss this apex, right? Maybe 1 lap, maybe 2 lap, but we don't want to do that every lap. You want to go over and then come back to where, like, at what point am I at the absolute limit and still hitting that apex point? And that's the art. Like, that's what I'm doing almost every lap around every corner, is I'm trying to experiment with that. But I want to start with the right corners here, okay? From here, we're pretty solid. This is pretty solid. I think we're just maybe a tick early here. Let me back this up. No, I think we're pretty good job. We're doing a pretty good job there. I think we just should just need to get back, be more aggressive getting back to full throttle, but we're pretty solid. If you want another corner to sort of experiment with too much entry speed, this is another really good one. Lots of run off road, not too much speed, right? So this is one where I'd be working on braking lighter and lighter and lighter until I miss the apex point, right? Because we can tell already we're a little early on that throttle application point. That throttle application point should be more like a car length in front of us. So I know we're overslowing, right? And because of that, we kind of get stuck at this like 40%, 50% throttle application, right? So really work secondarily, this one breaking lighter and lighter and lighter until you can't get back to throttle until like out over here. That would be too late, or until you miss the apex a little bit, right? So trying to build that confidence level up here. For right now, we're looking pretty good through here. I'm happy with things. This looks really, really good. Nice job on your throttle application back onto this little mini straight here. Really bumpy through here, but doing a good job. The final quarter, we're just overslowing a little bit, and that's causing us to be a little early to throttle, right? So if I kind of play this off, where do we get back to throttle? Way back in here, right? And now you're driving through the corner on throttle. There's banking here to where the car was going to grip up. This is where I want that initial throttle application point coming, right? So I want you, again, first, be patient to throttle, pick your right throttle application point, and then you're going to feel like, oh shit, I feel so slow in here. But that means come off the brakes earlier, get off the brakes like now, and coast throttle, full throttle here. And now you'll have more entry speed, and that's going to carry you on to the front straight away. All right, let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully it all makes sense. Let's keep crushing it, man. But really, really good job today. Lots to build off of, which is great.